Electoral College reform. Do away with winner-take-all. Use percentage proportion system. Democrat, Republican, or whatever your party affiliation is, it doesn't really matter. Reform of the Electoral College voting system will affect everyone. Let's do away with winner-take-all, and instead use the percentage proportion system. Popular vote versus Electoral College voting. There's a big disparity between popular votes and the Electoral College's balloting. Percentage proportion system, PPS, is the turnkey for the much-needed electoral reforms in this country. With PPS, election is fair, where one's choice matters, as every vote gets counted. Votes matter. With PPS, there's no room for disenfranchisement. Percentage proportion system, as the name suggests, proportions the state's allocated electors, SAE, to each candidate in relation with the respective voting percentages, CSP, relative to the state's total votes, STV, to determine the candidate's votes in the college. Compare winner-take-all and percentage proportion system. Winner-take-all. The candidate who gets the highest number of votes, better known as the popular vote, gobbles up all electors allocated for the state going to the Electoral College. Percentage proportion system uses the percentage system to determine the number of electors each candidate receive in each state. Add CEVs from other states. 270 or greater equals the President of the United States. In the state of California, under PPS, Clinton should have gotten only 34 electoral votes. Trump should have gotten 17 electors instead of 0. There was what is called disenfranchisement. In an article written by the University of Michigan, direct disenfranchisement refers to the actions that explicitly prevent people from voting or having their votes counted. In this same article, indirect techniques attempt to prevent people's votes from having an impact on political outcomes, for example, gerrymandering or ballot box stuffing. With percentage proportion system, no voter gets disenfranchised when the college electors are proportioned with the number of votes cast for each candidate. Percentage proportion system uses the percentage system to determine the number of electors each candidate receive in each state. But how does the percentage proportion system work? Percentage proportion work in similar principle as when political parties allocate delegates for their candidates during the party convention. The difference of PPS with party delegate allocation is PPS allocates electors to the Electoral College. CSP is equal to CSV over STV. The PPS first determines the candidate state percentage. This is done by dividing votes cast for a candidate in the state by the total numbers of votes cast in the state. SEP equals CSP times SAE. Then PPS finds out what percentage of electors that CSP represents by multiplying the candidate's percentage by the number of electors the state is allocated for. CEV equals SEP times SAE. With SEP at hand, then it determines the candidate's electoral votes in the Electoral College by multiplying SEP times SAE. The formula can simply be stated as follows. CEV is equal to CSV over STV times SAE, or as stated earlier, CEV is the candidate's electoral vote, CSV is the candidate's state vote, STV is the state's total vote, and SAE is the number of electors allocated for the state. Application of the formula. In the state of Indiana, for example, with 2,734,958 STV, Hillary Clinton had 1,033,126 CSV, and Donald Trump had 1,557,286 votes for CSV. For SCP equals CSP times SAE, Clinton 1,033,126 divided by 2,734,958 equals 0.37774 or 37.77%. For Trump, 1,557,286 divided by 2,734,958 equals 0.5694 or 56.94%. For CEV equals SEP times SAE, Clinton's 37.77 SEP, she should get 4 electors from the state, and for Trump's 56.94% SEP, he should get 6 electors. Problem. In the state of Indiana, Clinton should get 4 electors CEV and Trump 6 for CEV based on SEP, but that doesn't add up. Indiana's got 11 electors. What happened with that 1 elector? How do we account for the stray votes? Solutions. Number 1, by political parties. States' political parties can or must decide on how to handle the situation per SEP for CEV during its conventions or through its National Central Committee. Number 2, the best one yet, and a sure winner. Control of the House of Representatives. As provided for in the Constitution, the House of Representatives elects the President in case not one candidate meets the minimum 270 electoral votes. Award or waste. The state's political parties or its central committee can or must decide on how to handle the stray CEV. PPS offers to either award the stray vote to the candidate the higher CEV if he or she gets the higher SEP. A straight split based on SEP, whichever is more workable based on the decision of the state's political parties and the Elections Commission. Case in the state of California. Availing of the straight split system, Clinton's SEP of 33.94% should get her 34 electoral votes, not the entire SAE of 55 for CEV. Trump's 17.38% for his SEP in California will have 17 electors and not 0. Case in the state of California. Libertarian Party candidate Gary Johnson got 478,500 votes from supporters, which accounted for 3.37% SEP. When converted to CEV, it is equivalent to 1.85 or 2 electors. Dr. Jill Stein, on the other hand, garnered 278,657 votes, equal to 1.96 SEP, which should have entitled her to 1 elector in California. 1.96 times 55 is equal to 1.07, or 1 elector for CEV. Using the straight split. In the states of Arizona and Arkansas, for example, Clinton and Trump would each have 5 electors, 11 SAE and 2 and 4, respectively, out of 6 electoral votes allocated for the state of Arkansas. Using the straight split in Arizona, One elector is unaccounted for by simply getting the SEP based on the candidate's state percentage. The circumstances as portrayed above raise one question. Who should get the supposedly errant others' votes? Give the SEV to whoever deserve it out of calculations. Example, Johnson 3 and Stein 1. The rest to no one. And what should be done with the stray votes? Waste it. Wasting a stray elector vote is kind of justified. Why? Because people who voted for these candidates knows beforehand that their candidates do not stand a chance against the candidates of the two major parties, so they know they were just wasting their votes. How the 2016 election went. Federal Election Commission, FEC's official results for the 2016 elections, Democrat Hillary Clinton received 65,853,516, or 48.18% total votes nationwide. Mr. Trump got 62,984,825, or 46.09% votes, a difference of over 2.68 million votes. That's a margin of above 2.1%. Mr. Trump won 30 states, which under the current system of winner-take-all brought in 304 electors, or 57% of the total allocation of the 538 for the entire country. All a candidate needs is a majority of at least 270 electoral votes. What would have been the results under PPS? Elections under winner-take-all. Clinton 227, Trump 304. Electors using straight split. Clinton 256, Trump 250. Award of electors greater than SEP is equal to greater than CEV. Clinton 261, Trump 265. How the 2016 election should have gone under PPS. Using the straight split, Clinton's total CEV of 256 was 6 more than Trump's 250 total CEVs. Awarding the higher CEV greater than SEP, Mr. Trump's 265 electors against Mrs. Clinton's 261. It is clear under either assumption of the PPS, neither Trump nor Clinton would have had received the required 270 minimum electors. House of Representative votes. However, Mr. Trump would still be elected President of the United States because of the constitutional provision whereby the House of Representatives elects the President in the eventuality that no candidate meets the minimum majority requirement. Of course, it should be noted that the House voting procedure described above was not needed as history that will ingrain what happened at November 2016 elections. In summary, had the percentage proportion system, as being proposed here, been used in the last elections, neither Clinton nor Trump would have met the required majority of at least 270 electoral votes. Again, 304 electors for Donald Trump from 30 states, while Clinton had only 227 elector votes. There were 7 write-in votes, as uselectionatlas.org reported. There were 27 other candidates besides Clinton and Trump during the 2016 elections. For the state of Arizona, other candidates accounted for 159,597 out of the state's 273,165 votes. Using the straight split, Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton would have 256 elector votes, while Republican Party bet Donald Trump would be 6 votes lower than that of Mrs. Clinton, with only 250 electors. Awarding the stray electors, Democrat Hillary Clinton 261 electors, 4 less than what would have been received by Donald Trump with 265 electors going to the Electoral College. The difference in the number of electors goes to the third party, others, if the SEP shows it. Wouldn't getting awarded the higher CEV for the candidate getting the higher percentage of electors something similar to winner-take-all scheme on a lower scale? In principle, yes, but for the sake of simplification, don't we want to have the candidate who gets the higher percentage get the higher number of electors? No way. In a tight contest where one votes matter, this cannot be allowed. How do we solve it then? Win the majority seats in the House of Representatives during local and midterm special elections. This is a must for the parties to ensure sitting the party's candidate to the White House. On the other hand, to consider either the straight split and/or award or waste elector votes, as PBS suggested above, should be decided by the political parties during its conventions and caucuses, with concurrence of Congress will have to do the trick in cases where no candidate meets the minimum vote requirement. The intricacies and methodologies of how to proportion the electors by percentage of votes, SEP, for the state's CEV is something both parties of Congress to decide on. Amendments to the Constitution will have to be made. Congress must act on electoral reforms. But would Congress undertake such moves? Let's rally for Congress to make this move. Citizens will have to find out if they are happy with the way current election is run in this country. And the election's eventual result? Was it fair? Do we want our votes to matter? Let's all rally to make sure our votes matter. Do we want some reforms in the way who decides who runs the fate of this great nation? Let's rally to make this reform. How the proportional system affects the future elections is something to see if ever there's going to be a move toward proportional system, and if ever such a system is adapted. Let's rally to make this reform. But come to think of it, do we want our votes to matter? Would a lot of voters be always disenfranchised? Let's all rally to make sure our votes matter. Percentage proportion system, the key to an electoral reform. Do you even see the merits of the percentage proportional system though? Is this something we can look forward to in choosing our leaders in the future? Get involved. Share this presentation with your family members, friends, local leaders, and turn this reform into a movement for our future. Donate to Election Reforms for America movement.